Hey, I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin. Welcome to the Broken Skull Sessions. My next guest is one of the most popular and influential WWE superstars of all time. She is a four-time women's champion and a WWE Hall of Famer. My guest today is Lita.
Hey,
How are you?
great. How's it going?
Good to see you.
Good to see ya.
I'm trying to go back and remember the last time we saw each other.
I was wondering that too, because when I saw you when I pulled up, I was like, do you think that's when?
Was that 30 in New Orleans?
Yeah.
8 years ago.
Okay.
Just sitting here across the table from me, the pile of injuries that you've piled up since you've been in the business. How are you feeling physically?
Most days I feel really good. Some days I'm reminded that I've had a bunch of injuries and taken a lot of bumps. But for the most part, I'm so thankful with how I feel. And I also am like, when I have days I don't feel good, I'm like, all right, this is just to remind you and keep you honest that you're not invincible.
Are you ever around the vets that are maybe 5 or 10 years older than you at some of the events, and you go up to them and you say, "Hey, how you feeling?" or "How you doing?"
I don't dare ask them how they're feeling because I see it in their body and their way they walk, and it makes me like not only appreciate what they did, but appreciate how I feel and what I was able to do and still feel okay most days.
With that athletic daredevil style, whatever you want to call it, that you employed, was there ever one of the grizzled veterans that said, "Hey kid, you only got so many bumps on your bump card," and now you kind of look back and think, they were right?
Okay. Yes, every day there was somebody telling me to slow down or ease back on the big bumps. But I feel like most of my injuries or things that I get tweaked on are the dumbest things that could be anything that is like not the crazy stuff. Because that stuff I feel like I've always just like held my breath, crossed my fingers and go. And everything's been fine.
Right. Okay, let's jump into right now, because like you're a WWE Hall of Famer. You kind of really stepped away from the business a while back, but just last month you competed for the Raw Women's title against Becky Lynch in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was one of the best experiences I've ever had.
How so?
I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't hungry for this shot, and it just fell in my lap. And I think because I could approach it, I feel like all of my career, I never got to sink in and soak in the moments because you're on to the next. And I couldn't even soak in what I did because I'm like, I got to grab my bag and get out before the crowd, or like whatever like it was. And then this, I was like, I almost felt like I was observing myself in there. And I felt like I could soak in every moment from hitting the Royal Rumble to being in Saudi, and just, I could feel the magnitude of it and how special it was to be there. And I feel like I missed a lot of that in my career.
How did it get dropped in your lap?
Oh, Johnny Ace just calls me like literally as I'm leaving Gorilla from the Rumble, and asked if I wanted to do it. Like, I'm like still high on adrenaline. He's like, this is the perfect time, right? So I'm like, yeah. Or he's like, do you want to fight Becky? I was like, I do. And he's like, all right, a couple weeks from now. And I'm like, yes. And then, but it's like, it started right then. I'm like watching myself say yes to be like, are you sure about this?
Did you feel like you jumped into the frying pan as soon as the yes sunk in? You knew you'd already committed, but now you're thinking about it like, oh, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so in one way, they'd given us some heads up on the Rumble, and I'd been training because I'd only done the first Rumble, and that was like on a 24-hour heads up. Not been training, not been in the ring. Then I had to get cleared medically. So I touched the ring live when the fans saw me for the first time since the last time I touched the ring.
So that would have been the 2018 one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was not a good experience. Like, I was the wrong kind of nervous. And I've never felt that. The women had raised the bar so high. I was like, I don't know if I can keep up with them. I don't know if I'm gonna turn into dust on my first bump. Like, what is gonna happen? Like, this is not good. And so, but it was the first, and I wanted to be there, and I wanted to be part of it because it was such a monumental thing for the women to have a Rumble match. But so I was like, when they called, I wanted to maximize. I wanted to redo that moment as much as I could. And so I was training pretty hard and pretty good for that Rumble. So I was like, cool, I'll just continue, but now I'm gonna redirect as a singles match. But yeah, I would have liked another few months, but also just going with it. There was something about it that's just like, this is how you work best, not overthinking things, just going with it, do the best you can.
I want to ask you about getting back into ring condition, but let's go to some footage from Saudi Arabia.
This is the first time I haven't seen it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't watch my stuff. Look at that kid, she's so happy.
Okay, look at you. Now, this is shades of Lita from back in the day, but obviously you're in Saudi Arabia. You guys are all covered up.
Yeah.
Nerves in front of the crowd, or they obviously remembered who you were. They got with the match. They're coming for everything. There's Becky, serious as a heart attack. How you feeling here?
So I was nervous, but I thought I could also play nervous. I was like, this works perfectly because I am,
Right.
you know?
All right, into the match. Okay, now how's this bump feeling here? Boom.
I didn't turn to dust.
Yeah,
I was like, all right.
But had you got a chance to bump around any from that Rumble experience?
I did, and I'd been in the ring some, but there is that, like, you wait till the red light's on till you, like, fully take your bump. So there was, like, a pad on it or an extra, like, go through the motion but not take that. I'm not taking flat back bumps for fun,
Yeah.
right? You know?
Bam, clothesline into the corner. Becky with the cell, comes out, back in. Boot to the face. See you later, down. You go up.
But just a second, I'm gonna play it safe this time.
Crossbody off a second. 2 count. All right, here we go. Becky to the top. Boom, elbow. Here you come. Still got it in you.
This is a little shout out to Trish Stratus. That was
Yep.
one of her signature
Yep.
moves, so I thought I would give that to her.
But just
And
the
then-
athletic part of it. Wham. Will it be enough? 1, 2, kick out at 2.5, 3/4. Could have been the champ. You could have been the champ. Okay, here we go. Trademark stuff here. Nope, not quite. Okay, Becky's gonna pull a leg, get back in the ring. Going for the disarmer. She's got you in position. Can you make it to the ropes? You know you could submit here.
She thought I was gonna get to the ropes, so
Oh! Rock bottom, where did that come from? Leg on the ropes, there you go.
so ring awareness.
That
you know?
crafty ring veteran. Okay, she's a little perplexed, can't believe it.
She's gonna take a page from me right here.
Oh yeah, her own version of, is that a moonsault or?
Moonsault. I mean, we could call it a lead assault.
Lead
I'll just-
assault. Oh, misses with the lead assault. Kick to the gut.
She came out of her shoe there, didn't she?
Yep, bam. Pull her to the middle of the ring, no way. Okay, in position. Up to the top. Okay, you've done this a million times.
Yes, yes.
But how's this one gonna feel? Oh, kick out at 2 5/8.
I had her hooked and everything, man.
Yeah, had her hooked, going for the win. We're trying to showboat. Okay, pick her up. She's really out of it. But with an explosion, a rock bottom. Being in the ring with someone like Becky Lynch, you guys are kind of kindred spirits. Heard you talk about, the way she came into business and wandered her way into, being the superstar and the path that you took. You've paid so many dues, and we're going to get to that. So you guys are really kind of on the same page in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've always been, once my music hits, the nerves go away. Like, so leading up to it, I had doubts, I had nerves, but once my music hit, it's like, your doubts and nerves aren't gonna do you a bit of good because you're out here, so like.
Be in the moment.
Yep.
Did you get gassed at all in that match?
I feel like I it was like I thought I could get gassed, and the ref was like, make sure to breathe. And so I was like, am I gassed? But like I felt fine. I'll tell you, I don't watch my matches. That's the most I've ever watched in one of my matches.
Really?
Yeah.
How come you don't watch?
Because I feel like, so if I'm gonna do a new move, I would watch back to make sure that move looked like I thought it did or something like that. But I like to just go off the cuff and go from emotion. And if I watched myself, I'd go, oh, it looks stupid when you do that. You look dumb when you shake your head that way, when you do that. And it would take me away from me if I watched it. So I have to just
Stay out of your head. Don't doubt you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Before we leave the setting of Saudi Arabia, there's a picture I want to throw up, and I think you can explain the importance behind this picture.
Yeah, so this is the first time that any women have been on a billboard in Saudi, not for wrestling, in Saudi Arabia in any capacity.
That's pretty damn cool.
It was all over town. We kept driving, we're like, oh, there we are, there we are.
Yeah. You know, through your performance in that match and going back to the Royal Rumble, I've heard you say in some of your interviews, you had to remind yourself of who you were
Yeah.
to get into the mindset
Yeah.
because I think you leave the business for so long and it's kind of
Yes.
like, you know, who am I? What did I do? And it's hard to just look back and think about the fascinating career that you had and all the crowds that you were thrilling, the pops that you were getting on the way out. So tell me about that mindset of reminding yourself who you are to try to get back into, you know, the leader persona.
Totally. So, you know, like I'm fine with my regular ass life, right?
Yes.
And so the best thing is when they're like, oh, Vince wants to announce some of the surprises for the Rumble in advance. And I was like, all right, isn't that taking away like the thing that's the most fun for the audience or the surprises? But all right, I don't own the company, whatever. It ended up being the best thing for me because they announced me, the crowd popped. They had me come a couple weeks before and the crowd was so excited. That helped remind me. And then just like feeling the response online and when I'd post everything, like all that was a huge factor for me that I don't feel like I played into because you just are Lita. Like like when I'm full time, you don't get a chance to not be Lita, right? You have to remind yourself that you are a person outside the ring when you're full time, right? But so that helped me so much to go. I'm like, they believe I can still do it. Like, hell, like I guess I can, you know? So the current locker room, because they're like, I'm so excited you're here. I'm like, it's so great that you're here. And then the fans, their emotion towards me got me through
The
that.
love.
Yeah.
And the excitement. You know, back in the day, your pops were among some of the best of the night. You know, Attitude Era stuff. And you know, when I left, I stopped watching as much. But when you go back now, or just like you just did, to go out there, do you still get that adrenaline spike from that crowd? Because you live and die by that.
Right. It felt different. It more just feels like appreciation. And again, like I feel like a tourist in the ring where I'm like, wow, that's cool. They're enjoying this thing so much. But like I don't associate it that it's like they're enjoying me or what I'm doing. It's like, cool, they're having a good experience. They're happy they bought a ticket to the show tonight.
Right.
Like that's how I was soaking it in.
Okay, but so it's a different feeling.
It's a different feeling, but it does something. You can't go, I don't care. I didn't care if they were happy or not. Like I was glad.
Hey, you know, they billed you from Sanford, North Carolina for so long. You know, I just figured it's North Carolina. And I didn't know that you were from Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what kind of childhood did you have growing up? Were you into sports or, you know, great at school? Active childhood?
So my dad was like a regional salesman. And so we would move every 2-3 years, still in Florida, but like just enough where you're not you don't know any of your friends. So I was always easy to make friends, but also they might be gone tomorrow, you know? And so I think it's like that lends itself to you being like a loner in this business. It's still an individual sport. And then I was on swim team and I did judo. And both of those are like individual but team sports. And I think it kind of lended itself to like wrestling, right? Because it's like you want the show to be good, but it's you know?
Okay. When did you start watching wrestling? Because I know, true or false, Rey Mysterio would change the course of your life.
Yeah.
True or false?
True.
Okay. So when did you start watching? And then when did Ray make you say to yourself, I've got to go do this thing? Because
Yeah.
you're going to go to Mexico. You didn't enroll in a school. You go to Mexico. Smarten me up.
Because I didn't know. I didn't know any better, right? It was still very...
I just thought you were this wayward spirit, and if it's Mexico, I got to go. That's what I'm going to do.
I mean, yes, because I didn't know that like there's probably a wrestling school within 30 minutes from my house. I didn't grow up with wrestling. My family didn't watch wrestling growing up, but it was my boyfriend at the time's like his dude thing, like leave, don't come in the room. I'm watching wrestling. But I like, but I just have one question, and I'd keep popping my head in the room, and then I would, linger, start getting sucked into the drama. But I was playing in bands and competing for judo, and I was like, oh, it's like they're playing in bands and competing in judo. Like you're a rock star and you're an athlete in one gig. And so I started looking at it almost immediately from like these guys have cool jobs, from that day, once it kind of clicked, just anyone, hey, what you been up to? Oh, did you hear I'm gonna be a professional wrestler? Like I was saying it like a child would say they're gonna be a fireman, like I'm gonna figure out the specifics later. And that's what I did. I was drawn to that lucha libre style of wrestling, specifically Rey Mysterio, because, I wasn't able to understand at the time, but it was like, because he was bilingual and because he could get on the mic and cut a promo in English, you could feel above and beyond. Like, and he's in stories with like Kevin Nash, and I believed he could beat him, even though he's a quarter of his size, and feeling the emotion through no expression on his face, through his body. I remember asking my boyfriend, why don't any of the other luchadors get to talk? And he was like, well, they don't speak English. I was like, oh, they're really from Mexico? I guess that's where I gotta go to figure out how to do this.
Okay, so what'd you do? You say you used to tell your mom and dad or your boyfriend, or hey, I'm going to Mexico. I'm going to learn how to wrestle, and I'm going to live in Mexico. And so did you? If that's what happened, did your boyfriend go with you?
No, he was in a band, a touring band. So he was like going on tour for a couple months, and I was like, well, I'll go to Mexico for a couple months then. Literally wandered the streets asking where the Lucha Libre was, how to get there. Like I knew nothing.
Okay, that's where the dues paying starts, because you ain't found a wrestling school yet, but you're paying dues because you're trying to learn. So
I went and bought a ticket from a scalper for $10. And I remember that scalper was like, sucker. I just made his week. And I'm like, I got to sit in the front row. I was placed next to this woman who was like in her 60s, hadn't missed a wrestling match in 35 years, was telling me who every single wrestler, like she was my first wrestling instructor, right? And I'm like soaking it in. And immediately the office comes over to me. And I'm like, well, that's weird. But I'm like, the only white girl in the entire arena. They're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm here to watch wrestling with all of my people, And they're like, well, if you need anything, let us know. And I was like, well, yeah, I spent the most of my money on a ticket just now. So if you could tell me where the subway is, that would be cool. And he's like, what? You can't take the subway at night. I was like, no, I know where the stop is. It goes. And he's like, I'll give you a ride home. I'm like, this guy has a badge. He seems legit. He'll take me home. That dude took me to the shows 3 times a week, and I just kept showing up. And they're like, why do you keep coming? I'm like, I want to do this. And they're like, she won't go away. So I think this is legit. They finally told me I could start training at their school.
So where did you stay over there?
First, I got a Let's Go Mexico book, like a tourist book, and I found this place. It was $10 a night. That they said it was kind of safe.
Kind of.
But I thought I could do better than $10 a night down there. So I booked a week there, and then I was gonna find a place. I hooked up with some international correspondence students that were trying to get their experience, and they had like some apartments. They had an extra room there. So I ended up staying at one of these some people are trying to be reporters down there in Mexico, stayed in a room with them in an apartment.
Where did you get this independent streak from?
Moving around.
Gotcha.
It was like you had to entertain yourself and rely on yourself.
So you're down there for
a couple months.
Okay, a couple of months, and you come back and get on the indie scene. You'd end up there in Maryland.
Yeah.
I guess Maryland Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
Valet work or in ring?
Anything. I was like, people in the indies will get like, they'll take their act around. But I was like, I'm only going to learn what you know if we take our act, right? So I was like, anyone that would hire me for anything, I was like, I'll keep time for the show. I'll be a valet. I'll wrestle. I'll help set up the ring. So if I could, I would talk to everyone in the locker room. If they would tell me about a show somewhere, I'm like, do you think I could go with you? I'll give you a ride. Can I, if I could get on. And so I would just try to hustle.
So you're booking matches?
Yeah.
Okay, so trained in Mexico, but also learning on-the-job training.
Yeah.
Like if someone's talking to you, or if you're trying, and maybe if you're asking someone for advice, at that level, how do you trust the advice you're being given to know that it's good advice?
So I'm very much like I always, even before this, I would go to punk shows and I would be like, I would like the danger of the bad kids, but I'm like, my parents aren't gonna let me out of the house if I come home with a black eye or like the cops bring me home. I'm like a eyes open, mouth shut kind of
Right.
person. So it was like, all right, I'll take their advice, but then I'm gonna go watch their match, see if the crowd responds favorably to what they said, and then I can see if maybe I'll apply what they said.
So were you exclusively in Maryland as far as the Indies go, or were you traveling statewide?
No, everywhere. We went down Memphis, Nashville, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Virginia. I mean, literally anywhere. We'd always say bell to bell. If I can make it, well, I'll be there.
How did you get your bookings?
I would ask the people at the show.
Go get her, you're a hustler. Yeah.
People that were there at the show, or anytime if I would go train at the schools, I'd ask where everybody else was booking. And because I was saying, like, I was like, I'll just put up the ring. I'll do what. Can I just show up? Like, will you let me backstage? And even if you won't get me on the show, and that was like, because I would dance to get the money I could afford, even if I didn't get gas money, just float myself through the weekend
Right.
to just try to hustle.
Okay, finally you end up down in ECW. How did you get the call, or how did you just show up to ECW and get employed?
Oh, I just showed up. Just
Yeah.
ECW was in North Carolina somewhere, and I was wrestling on the indies with a girl, Lexi Fife, and she said, I heard they do workout before the matches. So we said, well, let's get there early, offer to put up the ring with them, and then ask if we can stay.
You offered to put up a ring?
Yeah.
That's badass.
So we got there, we're there, we're like asleep, because I'm sure we had driven from the night before somewhere. When the ring truck shows up, we're asleep up against the door. And we're like, yes, can you guys move? We're trying to bring the ring in. And we're like, oh, yeah. Can we help you? Can we help you? Like, maybe we, help people. They're like, yeah, of course you could help us put up the ring. And then once we're in, we're like, we're in. We're just going to stay here. We're not going to say anything, So we started working out. I started doing like a springboard moonsaults to my feet and doing stuff. And then Tommy Dreamer, he comes and he's like, and I'm like, I was taking up too much of the ring. I'm in trouble. Like, I'm taking space away from the guys that got to work that
You ain't
night.
never seen nobody do what you're doing.
And he's like, you put together a 5-minute match with that girl that you came in with. And
Really?
yeah. And so we did, and they said, okay, you want to start working here tonight.
Okay, so how do you turn into Miss Congeniality?
That was a Paul Heyman thing, and I didn't understand Miss Congeniality. It's supposed to be kind of this like loud New Yorker, and I'm from the South. I'm trying to pick up what you're throwing down, but I just don't get it. And so I didn't do a whole lot in ECW. I just came out with Danny Doring and Roadkill. The most where I learned was in the training sessions
Right.
before the matches, and everybody was always cool at showing kind of spitball and everything.
So how did you end up down at Funkin' Conservatory
Yeah.
with Dory Funk Jr.? Because Dory was a guy that, I didn't really appreciate until I got later on in my career, but to know how technical and sound he was, because he was so snug,
Yep.
no gaps. He would never expose the business. But when I would watch the style that you would employ, if I was to watch you, I'd never say, she was definitely at Dory school. So what did you learn from an all-time great like Dory Funk Jr.?
Just passion and like the little things, he was always, you do it and be like, great, do it again, great, do it again, and but he would also acknowledge, we don't work a top wrist lock for 15 minutes anymore. But anyways, so work your top wrist lock for 15 minutes, like to know how to do it. So I was already at ECW, but they were doing the Funkin' Conservatory in conjunction with WWE, getting people ready for TV. That partnership dissolved. He was doing things on his own. I was already at ECW, but I was just kind of a managerial role. So I said, hey, I'm going to pay on my own dime to go down to Funkin' Conservatory. So I'm going to need the next 2 TVs off. And they're like, but you already have a job. And I was like, I know, but I want to keep learning, keep hustling. So I went down there. They ended up showing my tape. And that's how I got the call from WWE.
Man, I tell you what keeps coming to me is you're hustling. You're working your tail off. You have dedicated your life to do this, and you're doing whatever it takes to make sure you're successful. And going back to the Dory stuff, what you're telling me is, even though Dory's telling you we don't really do that anymore, the more rooted you are in the basics, I mean, the more you know what the core business is, then the more you can do everything else, because it always comes back to the fundamentals.
Foundation.
You're very fundamental. So very valuable lesson to anybody out there. How did you end up, they got the developmental thing going, how are you going to end up in WWE?
Yeah, so they didn't have a specific developmental territory at that time. You know, we've had some associations along the way. So I was active in ECW. They called me and just started bringing me on the road. It was right at the time, Terry Taylor was in charge of talent relations. He went to WCW mid them talking to me, and I was like, oh, like, it's dead. Like, it's over. I called and asked if I wanted to go to, he said, I'm going to be over at WCW. Do you want that same deal over here? I had my sights set on WWE. So I said, no, I'm going to take my chances and hope they pick up where you left off and see what happens. JR called me. And we did, you know, just like a basic developmental deal, and threw me on the road, and we were just doing darks.
So then let's take a look at your debut in WWE alongside S.A. Rios.
Yeah.
And as we look at what you're wearing now, it's going to evolve into what you would end up wearing, which was really trailblazing and became your iconic look. I mean,
Gilbert.
oh, Gilbert! Okay, man, nice moonsault. Man, okay, for the 3 count. Referee Timmy White, okay, you're right up, not missing the beat. Here comes the lead assault. Not been named that yet. Boom, very impressive. S.A. Rios with the count. You know, I don't think at that time there was just a whole lot of women coming off the top with a beautiful moonsault like that. Of course, you know, he kind of set the page, and then kind of you started really kind of just trumping him because he looks good doing it, but look at this shot.
Eddie.
You know, all of a sudden, yeah, Eddie. What your thoughts on Eddie? One of the greatest of all time.
Oh my God, so good. He knew how to have fun out there. Like, talk about like knowing the foundation of the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Like, you know that it's just in your brain. So since you know that, now you can just go out there and have fun. It was so fun. Like when we did this story with Essay in China.
Yeah.
So much fun, and like he was like, you know, you're in good hands.
Yeah. Well, even when you were working with China, that he came to, it was a dress room setting. He came in there maybe to offer you some advice, and he was so interesting to watch because he had this energy within. I think it was charisma, but he was a guy out there. It was the little things that meant so much. It's like if you had a guy laying face up, you know, he'd do that thing on the forehead with his boot.
Yeah.
I mean, hardly anybody else did that, but nobody did it like Eddie did.
Yeah.
And when he turned it on, whether it was in the ring or in a promo or pre-tape, his charisma was like tenfold of what most people had.
Well, it is all about like making something out of nothing, right? You just talk about that little thing on the forehead, but it's like it carried from the forehead all the way up to his hair, like the way his hair would whip and everything.
Yeah. So in WWE, how old were you when you started? 20?
24, 23, 24. Because remember, I couldn't rent a car.
Okay.
You had to be 25 to rent a car.
So, you know, I started when I was 24, but I was in Dallas, you know, just coming out of college. You're out on the road, but you're, I mean, a kid, but a young lady. You're learning, you're hustling. Were you thinking, hey man, one of these days I'm gonna make it. One of these days I'm gonna make it. I just keep doing this.
Yep.
Was that your mindset?
Well, and I'm also always been like, it's okay to change your mind. So I was like,
Okay.
one of these days I'm gonna make it unless I decide like, I don't, like, I've tried or like I've seen what this is like and I don't like what I've seen. So I'm gonna like veer off.
Okay, so I guess maybe you crossed paths with Matt and Jeff Hardy, Mid-Atlantic NWA.
Yeah, like so on indie shows. We had crossed paths, worked together, and we just become friends already just working on the indies. They were still like in the Daisy Tights stage before Michael Hayes.
So who decided to put you guys together? Right?
The writers, we were friends, and they said that we just see you guys walking into the building together and you look like a crew.
Right.
You know, every time we'd be in the gas station, are you guys a band? You know?
I mean, that's a great look. If I didn't know anything about professional wrestling, I would say, well, who are these people? Are they rock stars? Because I mean, to me, that's what you look like.
But see, also if you look like, we're all like, kind of, we always got that, like, people would say, we look like we could be friends with you. You know, like we weren't like Ultimate Warrior, like jacked to the gills and everything. You know, it was just like, you know, like your friends.
Let's talk a little bit about the evolution of your gear.
Yeah.
Because we showed you the S.A. Rios stuff from ECW, from Miss Congeniality, just, you know, basic spandex stuff. Yeah. And then it ended up, you know, kind of like, okay, this, that look versus this look. I mean, you have confidence, you got your hand on your hips. That's, I mean, beautiful shot. But then over here with this look, you look like a star, total confidence, like super cool.
So it's funny that you showed this specific outfit because it was that outfit, the red foil outfit that I bought. Edge and I had gone shopping that day in Atlanta, and I just had a black thong on. And he was like, "Oh, let me see your outfit that you bought." So it just was sticking out of my pants, and I was like, "Well, I mean, not like that, but I mean, this is the outfit." And he was like, "I mean, or like that." But that was early on. I was with S.A. Rios, and I just kind of put it in my back pocket that it might be an extra. I just looked at it as like an accessory to match my top to my bottom.
But I don't know that anybody else was doing that.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And like, surely you weren't thinking, hey, this is going to be one of the. I wouldn't say it didn't define you. I mean, because your talent defined you, but you had a look. It was a part of the whole package. Is just that when you saw you in action, like this woman's a star. Did you feel like that?
No, of course not. I'm like, I'm going to do my thing. And like, thankfully, these people are into it. King, I remember the first time said, "Hey, you had a great match tonight, but your underwear was sticking out of your pants." The whole time I was like, I did that on purpose.
How'd you like working, as Team Extreme? You guys are getting a lot of attention. Hardy Boys are getting over. You're certainly a big addition to the package. What was the mindset when you guys had all been out there struggling, paying dues, learning? They'd been doing it since they was 14. Mm-hmm. So y'all get together. Y'all starting to feel the an ascension, right?
Man, that was such a magical time in all three of our careers because number one, we were getting the strong reactions, getting higher on the card, but also it was like it didn't feel like work. We're like, I can't I do feel like that was like a moment I got to take to be like, I just get to hang out with my friends and like jump off of stuff and just have fun and it was like the pocket of feeling like, wow, we've done it.
You're on your way up, but you've been paying dues for so long. Now that you're starting to get that momentum, it's kind of like, hey, man, we're really getting the response that we always wanted to get, and we're starting to kind of feel like stars. And like, hey, man, this is really cool. We can take this places. Did you think that you would ever end up, in the Hall of Fame and ending up at this level? Were you thinking, hey, man, I'm going to be main eventing one of the first women's main events on Raw here pretty quick?
It didn't feel like that. That was that time that no one left the show early because we all wanted to watch each other's stuff, and it felt like one crazy pirate ship that we're like, can you believe this thing's floating and we can see the treasure? Like it just felt really supportive because everyone was getting good responses and we were just doing great business.
You start mixing it up, you're with the Hardys, but you start mixing it up with a lot of, not just women, but men in the ring, having intergender matches, doing tags. Do you feel like working with the guys, helped you in any way, shape, or fashion?
100%. They did not need to. I mean, they could have vetoed that flat out, and not only like you were showing earlier, doing the moves that they hadn't seen a woman do before, but then on guys, I mean, it was just something that the Western crowd in WWE capacity hadn't seen before. So it really added to my unique, trajectory. There's a clip that I love, Team Extreme against Test and Albert and Trish. Yeah. And I hit Test with a Hurricanrana. I do a planche out onto Albert, and you see me, I tap him on the legs. I'm like, thanks, buddy. Because each time I do a move to those guys, I'm like, thank you. You didn't have to do this, and you just made me look like, a rock star.
But it was a rub. You were doing your thing, and you were a star on the rise, but that rub always helps, especially with cool people. If you going back and looking at some of the YouTube stuff, I read the comments, and it's like, back in the day, you were like, every guy's crush, and all the women or the girls at the time felt empowered by you and wanted to be you, and everybody just thought you were the coolest thing since sliced bread. So when you look back, you were really impacting people and were a big part of the draw and the ratings of the program.
Yeah, I remember The Office came and told me that since my debut, the demographics had shifted looking for the women audience, that finally these dudes' girlfriends are like, okay, well, I'll watch her because we look like we could be friends. Yeah.
I want to fast forward a little bit, and this is some footage from WrestleMania 17, but just talking about that interaction, and it's from the TLC 2 match. And when you run out, it was you, Spike, and Rhino.
Yes.
This is you. Look at this great run.
Hey, wait a minute. There's Lita!
Here you come. Get involved in it. You got the thong going. All right, pull edge down. Bam, into the ladder. See, physicality there. Okay, Rhino's got you in a bad way here. Up with the slam. Overhead press. Oh, low blow.
Spike,
Land
thanks.
on your feet, quick as a
Spike.
cat. Okay, to the top. Okay, here's your specialty. Rhino in position. Wow, nicely done. Okay, out you go. Here you are back in. Swing of the chair.
For Spike's trouble, he gets just creamed over
There
that.
you go, god dang.
Whoops.
Oh, man, that was awesome. It was one of the best matches on the card that night, and so you get to run out there. What were you thinking? Because that was a very receptive crowd of
Yeah.
67,000 people in the Astrodome. Kind of, how'd you feel about that?
So, like the tag team division has always had this like cloud over it. It's like, oh, the tag team division is for the people that aren't the actual stars and they're off to the side. And those three teams specifically were like, no,
Yeah.
like we're like solidified, like tag team, top performers. We just happen to be in a tag team. And they elevated not only the tag team division, but just like they were getting the loudest pops of the night and they knew it. And so
Yeah.
just to be able to touch those matches felt so special at that time. And to get to come out there, my favorite part of that match was actually right after that clip ends, because then I roll out of the ring and I get to watch the rest of the match from the ground, feel every bump
Yeah.
from the there, watching up on the Tron, and just like I'm laying on the ground, but I'm just like, yes, go, go, go. Like just being like proud of them, like elevating all six of those. Like that's one of those, I don't know who won that match because it doesn't matter because all six of them came out
Right.
elevated.
Yeah. Any pressure in moments like that? Or is it just, are you, because I know how you like, sometimes I've watched interviews where you want to keep yourself at a certain level, but on something like that, you just got to be high. I mean,
Yeah.
because of adrenaline. And it's a very real physiological response to the way that the crowd's responding.
Absolutely. I mean, that match specifically, especially because they had, like, each team had their equalizer on top of their
Yes.
team. So, I mean, it was like, that was poetry right there.
One of the first big angles that you would have once you started getting some momentum was one of the top female heels in the company, and that was Stephanie McMahon. And I've done business with her and Vince and Shane and all of them, and just, I love them. You're going to face her for the women's title. Let's go to some action from this match in which you would win your first championship, and then we'll talk about it. Bam, good right hand. Boom, kicks him in the gut. Rock, Triple H, boom, good belt shot from Kurt. Blind feed here, swing and a miss with the clothesline coming up. Stephanie waiting there. Okay, no, rock bottom for your troubles. See ya. Talk a little bit of trash there. Here comes Steph. Oh, the belt. Swing and a
Scouted.
pine. Low position.
Oh,
there you are.
Yeah.
Get up. Here you go.
I think I'd been,
Okay, adjust yourself. Top turnbuckle.
look at the crowd is just insane,
Amazing.
right?
Boom, nailed it. Hook a leg. Championship cadence. Look at the crowd.
Here's your winner and the new World Wrestling Federation Women's Champion, Lita!
Okay, there's a story on the backside of this. You know I'll ask about it.
Yeah.
Let's let it play out. Okay, you're happy as a lark. Very happy, selling all the physicality of the match. You win a title up there, and all these dudes, how you feeling?
So, Dr. Tom, just raise a glass to
Yeah.
Dr. Tom, said, the plan is to put the title on you. But I was like, I'm like, prepare for the worst and hope for the best, right? So I'm just like, cool, like, probably won't happen, might not, like, I'm just not.
Why get your hopes up?
Yeah. And even, until you walk out the curtain, I'm like, still, no, I don't know, and so it's really like not until that moment are you like, oh, they are. I got the title. Yeah, I think at that point, I couldn't really feel it until after we got back to Gorilla because I'm in there with all these big players. I'm fresh, brand new, that I'm like, don't get in their way. So I think it was like not until I came back through the curtain because I'd be like, oh, here, I get to take this thing with me now everywhere I go.
I think because you felt like that, and the Hardys felt the same way.
Yeah, we sure
They
did.
grabbed
All
you,
of
yanked
us.
you out of there, and up the ramp you went. And the heels were all in sell mode, and this was your moment. But you didn't get a chance to bask in the glory because of that respect that you were trying to give
Yeah.
the stars.
Yes.
So the next night you would go out on Raw, I
Yeah.
think.
Yes.
And you get your moment and say, hey, I am the women's champion. But that was true. You were just
Yeah.
trying to make space for the stars in the ring.
Yeah. So yeah, they're
It's a
like,
respect thing.
they're like, we didn't want you. We didn't get your hand. We didn't get Rocky with your hand raise. I'm like, oh, I just wanted to get out of the way because I didn't want to leave Triple H there on the ground and Kurt Angle on the ground and have them selling and this girl standing above them, like parading around. You know, I see it now, and it's like, give yourself 15 seconds. It's okay. Like,
Yeah, but you know what? In the moment, because of all the heavy-duty players in there, it's a respect thing, and you don't,
Yeah.
you know, hey, man, this is cool enough as it is.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and gloat and bury you by
Yeah.
sticking around too long. Now, a 5-minute celebration would have been too long, but yeah, a few seconds to enjoy
Mm-hmm. Get
that.
the shot. We coulda
It's that
gotten the shot.
acknowledgement. So you're going to hold the title for 73 days. Did you change your style from a workmanship standpoint as far as psychology, because you've never been a champion? That was your first title shot, correct?
Yeah.
So any psychology change and, hey, I'm defending a belt now, or was there any pressure with being the women's champion?
Yeah, definitely. That was the next night. We had to go out. So because I knew, like, I was just doing exclamation points up until then, and now I'm having to tell a story, carry a match, and they can't be on their feet cheering from bell to bell
Right.
because I have to take them for a ride. So yeah, it was like, oh no, you put this on me because I'm getting all of these cheers, but now I have to figure out how to pepper them in accordingly.
Yeah, it's one thing, like, it's almost like case in point, like when they put the Shield together, they each kind of did 33%. And when they split them up, it's like, hey, man, this whole thing's on you.
Yeah.
And you get the belt, it's like, yeah, now there has to be some meat. It's just not just sizzle. It's not a, come and do trademark stuff that just
Right.
pops them. Tell a story, and that's going to create the longevity.
Well, yeah, right, because the guys were putting my trademark stuff already in the right spots of when it made sense in their match, but it's like now I had to put that stuff in where it made sense in my match.
Right. I guess, give or take around this time, you start dating Matt. Does that make life easier on the road? The working relationship part of it, the personal? Do you lean on each other?
Yeah. I mean, it was super easy because we were like, neither of us were ever going to get mad at each other of like, oh, like, sorry, I got to go work out harder, or that, this gig that just extended and I'm not going to make my flight home. Like things that potentially could be legitimate gripes if you're just dating someone outside the business.
Right.
We're both so focused on our career, and it was like encouraging to be career first. Anything else is second. And yeah, we could lean on each other, like to talk things through. You know exactly who I'm talking about when I'm telling you who are the issues that I'm having and things like that. It was easy.
Riding down the road, booking the territory, or talking about, here's an appearance?
I mean, the three of us, we were booked together all the time. Like Jeff was one of my best friends. I was with Matt. Like it was just really easy.
What about as you're starting to get even hotter and bigger? I mean, on a week-by-week basis, seemingly you were going up really, really quick. Just no one had been where you were at. Who did you ask for advice? Or did you have anyone say, hey, man, try this, or a Dr. Tom type person?
I mean, Dr. Tom was who I would go to as far as like match stuff. And even just like, I felt like he had really good removed perspective, because I'd be fired up and I'd be like, then this happened and they did that. And then he's like, just kind of like a removed words of wisdom from Dr. Tom, because he could like be chill about things. But the boys, like it was we didn't talk about anything other than wrestling.
You lived it, ate it, and breathed it.
Yeah, but that's what we needed to do right then too.
A lot of matches stand out in your career, but I wanted to talk to you, Matt. I think this match is important to you. It's with China from Judgment Day. Y'all wanted a trilogy,
Yeah.
and got a chance to do this one match. And I think this was China's last match with
Yeah.
WWE.
Yeah.
Now, let's play some footage from that match and get some of your comments. Because, she's going in as the 9th wonder of the world, right? And she
Yeah.
really protected her gimmick. And
She
you guys
did.
are real-life close friends.
Yes, yeah.
So I've heard you talk about wanting to, really leave it all out there in this match. Did you Went up with the power, with the display of power turned into a sunset. Okay, gonna help her up. Nope, she can pull you down. Small package, 2 count, kick out.
All right, now it's on. Shots
That's on,
fired.
shots fired. Okay, send you in. Boom, up, DDT, see ya. She was legitimately super strong. Okay, she's built as 9th wonder of the world. Obviously a powerhouse, a real game changer. Doing a lot of work with the guys too.
Yeah.
Kick to the gut. Man, swinging neck breaker. Cover, nope, not cover. Gonna pick you up, send you in for another ride. Power slam. Come on, Rev, get in position. Good kick out.
Just a young Chad Patton back there.
Young. All right, handful here. Oh, nice, into a submission move here. That was nice. Did that come from any of your
my
grappling?
judo roots.
Yeah. Okay, man.
Aye.
Y'all worked that for a while. We edited that.
Yeah.
And very physical. She had those strong legs. You finally make your way to the ropes, break a hold here.
And that was a choice to do something different. Neither of us were known for submissions,
Right.
but wanting to just kind of expand what we're known for.
Yeah. All right, she threw across the ring with the hair up. Oh, close to a super bomb, but not quite. Almost had her. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Go for it again. No, not so fast. Into the ropes. Big boot. Okay. And vicious power bomb. Nice sell. Good hook. Pretty lifeless. Did the damage she needed to do to get the 3 count. I think there was a lot of people really good friends with China. God rest her soul. So how close were you guys? What brought you guys? What made you guys so close?
I think that, so China, if she liked you, it was good. If she didn't, it was not good.
I had heard that.
And I think it was that, she was on top, and then these girls started piling into the locker room.
Yeah.
And she didn't necessarily like all of them. But I think she respected me because she knew I came up from the indies, but I think I was a little bit made example of, where she's like, no, I don't hate all of the girls coming into the locker room. Don't pin that on me. I say, I like this one.
Yeah.
So I kind of got like off as like, she just picked me, that like, okay, you're showing respect. I'll like take you under my wing.
Right.
And she was always great. And unfortunately, it wasn't that long before she started getting riffs and personal riffs and everything that I was always hearing the inner details of. But it was like she was happy to be working together because we were friends. But I mean, she was being portrayed as like an equal to all of these guys. She had a warm up with Ivory, who she just pretty much destroyed. But I was the first opponent that was going to be more, in the women's division, like have her in there. Watching that back, I was like, okay, it was a better match than I thought, because I just knew that we had so many ideas and we wanted so much more, and didn't go there.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, seeing all the stuff that you had done with the guys, if you would have known that, hey, this is going to be the only shot, and you know what? I know you've been doing this with all these guys, but we got to do this, and to really employ all that high flying stuff that you do with the guys would have been her equal.
Yeah.
That could have ripped the building, the roof off the place, but that would never happen. But anyway, a great match. You're firing all cylinders. Everything's going great. You're on top of the world, and you go do a TV show, Dark Angel, and you're doing one of your things with the stunt woman. She drops you, you plant your head. Tell me about, how that happened, what you felt when you hit. Because this is going to put you're going 100 miles an hour, you come screeching to a halt.
Yeah. I was out of my elements, right?
Yeah.
Here, I know chain of command, I know who's done what, and so they're like, yeah, no, I know how to do this, and I walk through this the same way every single time. First, let me just jump out onto you so you can feel my weight.
Yeah.
Second time, let me just jump out. I'll do the move, but you just stand there. You don't have to do anything so you can feel how I'm going to turn, and then we'll put it all together the next time. So whatever you do, don't buckle. Just get a wide enough base. I jump out there. I go to do the move. She buckles, right with my head, extended like that.
to get the rotation.
Yeah. So, I mean, just shock waves. Like I was like, I think I just died. You know, like just shock waves down all four appendages, and couldn't move. I was just in a pile, and it was just a rehearsal, right? So there's just like the stunt people, and they're like, "Ooh, you all right?" And I said, "No, I can wiggle my fingers and my toes, but I can't move." And they're like, "Okay, you must have just got a stinger. Let's just take 5 guys." And they just
The old stinger,
Mm-hmm.
the stinger. That's what everybody wants to minimize
yeah.
a serious neck injury. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was like laying there, I remember, and it was just like a wrestling mat, so like just that like little rubber, like hard, mat. I was laying on there, and everyone is just like, they've dispersed. And I could just hear them like talking about their weekends and just shooting like, just like shooting off stories. And I'm like, and like, I guess 5 minutes had passed, and they're like, "All right, so can you get up?" And I'm like, I mean, I can't move. I think, and this is again, like I want to be okay. I want
Yeah.
to not be hurt. So I'm like, I think if you got me to a seated position, I could probably stand myself up. And then they come over, and I said, but I'm feeling insecure. I'm like, aren't you not supposed to? Because I'm like, I don't know. Somebody would be saying something if this was a cause for alarm.
And you want to, I mean, you
And I
come
want
from
to
the pro
power
wrestling
through.
world.
I'm
yeah.
fine, right? And I honestly thought I broke my collarbone because my arm was dead. They got me up to a seat. I held what I thought was my broken collarbone in place and waddled myself up to a stand. I could stand like this, but that's about it, with like all of my back muscles kind of supporting, balancing my head. And they said, well, we'll just walk through the rest of the stunts for the day.
Well, that makes me angry when I hear people talk like that.
Yeah, but I'm still like
Trying to be
going. I'm
game.
like, okay, yeah. I wanted to be
Yeah.
fine, but I wasn't.
So you end up going to the doctor, and I got a phone call.
Yeah, fast forward. This is like 3 doctors. Like, it just wasn't getting better. Medrol dose pack didn't do anything for it. And then finally, they brought me to a doctor, got my X-ray, and saw that it was broken in 3 places. On my way to an autograph session, I said, "Well, wait, I got an autograph session. There's people waiting in line. I got to go." They put a hard collar on me. I did the autograph session. I went to the hospital. That surgeon came out and said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." I said, "Okay, I'm just going to run to the bathroom real quick." They said, "We'll bring you a bedpan, but you can't move." They said, "Your neck's broken in 3 places. You've got floating bones. If you were to cough, sneeze, trip, anything, you could be paralyzed. But don't worry, I'm going to give you surgery. We're just going to go in through the back of your neck, slice open those muscles back there, and you're going to be fine." And I, who's hot, popped my head, Dean Malenko, right? Got the scars down the back of his neck.
same with ours.
Could never wrestle again.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, so this guy just told me if I cough or sneeze, I could be paralyzed. But also, he's going to do that surgery where I can never wrestle again. I'm like crying hysterically because I'm like, my wrestling career's over. And I said, no. I said, I need to talk to Stone Cold. Like, not the surgeon, not our trainer. I need to talk to this wrestler who has had a broken neck and has wrestled again. That's what I need to do.
So I got a phone call, and I said, "Hey, here's what I'd do." And so you end up going down to San Antonio.
No, you did more than that. You're like, "No, we're going to get you down there. I'm going to go with you." We like got a car, flew together, and brought me down to Young, like escorted me, like as if you could do anything if I were to cough, sneeze, or trip. That was going to, but somehow I was like terrified, and you took over, and I was no longer terrified. I was going to be okay.
So you get the surgery done.
Yeah.
5/6 fusion.
5'7", yeah.
5/7. 2 levels?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, 2-level fusion. Okay, he was going to do 3 on me, and he ended up going 1 to be conservative. He's very conservative.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're on the shelf now. Give or take 15 months.
Yeah.
You used to being on the road. You've been doing it since you got, over to Mexico.
Yeah.
So how are you handling being not in the spotlight and in front of crowds?
It wasn't spotlight or in front of crowds. It was the like sedentary nature of it.
Enchiladas.
And it was like not feeling like I couldn't be useful to like myself or anyone else. And so that is when I started volunteering at the animal shelters. Because I just needed I couldn't drive, I was in the hard collar for 4 months.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you need to give yourself some sort of schedule. And so I pretended that I had a job at the animal shelter and I would give myself hours to
Did you watch the product?
nope.
I didn't either.
I tried. It was too painful to me. And then they had me doing commentary, and it was like the worst because I had to sit there and talk about my locker room. And I had to talk about these girls that were like going past, and it was, but also I didn't want to do it from a place of being bitter. I wanted to try to put them over, but I couldn't find that place within me. And I was also really mad at the person that dropped me on my head. And so I had a lot of like anger. It was just really uncomfortable to be me right then,
Did you ever think you was gonna make a comeback?
Yes, I never thought that I wasn't going to come back, but we're coming up on a year.
Yep.
And any injury, if it's like you say you're going to be ready in 10 months, you'll also say 8. Like you want to push yourself, and we push ourselves, right? It was coming up on a year, and I was like, I'm not ready, and I don't want to feel like how I feel right now, running down the ring, because I can't be thinking about anything other than what I'm going to do to whoever's in the ring. So I asked for more time. Like finally, I was waiting. I was like 11 months, 11 and a half. I was like, you're not ready. And finally I called, I said, I need more time. And they were like, cool, take your time. And so yeah, I needed 3 more months. I was chomping at the bit. I was ready to go.
I think you're about the 15-month timeline. I think that's give or take about what I was too.
Yeah.
And at first, I remember I'd ride around my four-wheeler with a cooler full of beer. And, Vince calls me and he goes, hey man, thinking about your return. I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm coming back. Because I was at that phase you were at, when you're not sure you're ready.
I'd feel like I'd hear something behind me and it would just make me go, like.
So you make a little bit of a comeback and you're back in the ring. Tell me about that first bump. And then you realize that, hey, my neck's fused up, I'm as good as I was, and everything's solid. And you did feel confident.
I felt good. It was people around me that started doing that. Well, wait, now you can only do moonsaults on like pay-per-views, and now no more at the house shows. And I mean, I'm like, okay, sure, that's fine. But I felt like I could do them every night of the, like that. That wasn't what crushed my neck.
Right.
And so I felt good. But yeah, Office kind of changed my style a little bit for me.
Jumping ahead a little bit, not too long after you come back, you're about to have the first ever women's cage match with Victoria. Mm-hmm. And let's go some footage from that. Okay, there's that big ass cage coming down, and that great crowd. Everybody's on fire. Look at the signs. Okay, you're ready to go. You look like $1,000,000. What do you think as that cage comes down? Because there's a feeling when that cage drops, right?
And I'd been involved in cage matches on the outside or coming in to do spots, but never, in one. And so part of it felt really familiar because I was like, I've been right next to the action during all of these spots. It didn't feel like this is this moment for women to progress things at the time.
It's an ominous feeling like, hey, we're in here until it gets done.
Yeah.
I like the way you jumpstart the match, jam her in the corner, start throwing her into the cage.
Yeah, you wanted to use what was there.
Yep. Boom.
And of course, it being the first, and we were just delicate little flowers of women, we were told we couldn't do a lot of the things. So I was like, well, I could throw her into the cage. I can do some of this stuff.
Oh, so y'all had a few restrictors
We had
on.
some restrictions on there.
Okay, classic finish to a cage match. Slams the door on you. Obviously, you're in a bad way here. So, and of course, Victoria, being the heel, just crawls out and falls in a pile of heaping flesh. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a nice shot.
Mm-hmm. Look at that, good spot. Thanks,
Beautiful
Victoria.
Shot. Yeah, she's right there for you. How was that? Did you enjoy being in the cage?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, so while I didn't feel that these moments didn't realize now looking back that they were going to be small rungs on that ladder of the progression of how women interactions are in the business, it was always like, I want to be part of that boys club. I want to, that was my mentality there. So I was like, I don't get to just do a spot on the outside. Yeah. I get to get in here and play.
Yeah. Yeah, playing, that's where the fun's at.
Yeah.
Without question, your biggest rival in your career was Trish Stratus.
Sure.
Alan, why'd you guys just hit it off and like gangbusters and have this chemistry? Look at that's a great shot. Just a great shot there.
She got hired 2 months after me, but we were both brought in for the first time. It was just just to say hi, like a random TV in Florida. And so we were like the new kids, trying not to be in the way of all of the stars that were on TV. And we're very yin and yang, like as many similarities as we have personally.
Yeah.
From a fan's perspective, we're very yin and yang, where it's like between the two of us, we've got you covered, you know?
Yeah.
And then teaming up is even better because now we've is all in one package. And so there were just so many options with us. Like I could be heel, she could be baby, we could switch the roles, or we could come together. It just goes on and on and on.
Which one did you enjoy better, working as a heel or baby in your feuds with Trish?
Trish specifically, I think it was fun where she would be a heel because she was she could be this like witty kind of heel. Me as a baby, I think that combo worked the best. On our main event match, that was the scenario. Like that was how we were played out.
Okay, we're talking about a main event match. Let's go to a historic match you would have with Trish, and this is main eventing Raw, and this is the first time two women are gonna go one-on-one in the main event on Raw. This is a first and a groundbreaking moment.
Yeah.
A trailblazing moment for women to come. It's a very iconic moment in time. A week or two before, 3 or 4 weeks, you'd broken her nose.
Yeah.
Now she's milking this, but you legit broke her nose.
Oh, look at that Matrix move! Hey! Athleticism!
Gets you with the Matrix there, come back, drop an elbow on her. With the arm, Russian leg sweep, boom, over for the cover. Hooks the leg, she's out. Man, breaks the eyes.
Classic.
Flipper. Okay, son, lower back. Oh no. See you later. Backdrop over the top. Down she goes.
The back body drop over the top rope, all the way to the floor. Come on, Trish, suck it up, baby. The champion in trouble here. Here she is, she's in big trouble.
This is scary here. Does look like bad.
Yeah, it did. And I didn't, okay, so if you're doing a dive to the outside, usually it's like if you catch your feet on the ropes is how something
Right.
messes up.
What caused
So-
that?
She started to bump without me getting contact on her, so I didn't have any. I was chasing her
Yeah.
down, basically.
You got lucky you didn't break
I
your neck
got
there.
lucky. Yeah, but it was like I hit the ground. I was like, "What happened?" I didn't catch my feet. I had my eye on the target, and so
Yeah.
it didn't until I looked back because I was like, there was no body there.
Yeah, that looks good. Hey, suplex off the top here. That's nice. Boom. Okay, here you go. She's in position, going up to the top. Oh, clubbing below to the back. Got you in for the ride. Oh, back. Oh! Close but no cigar. Kick to the gut. Oh, hooks the rope. That was real nice. A little bit of a sit. Oh, kicks out. Tried to use the ropes for leverage. It didn't work. Good fire. Boom, with the headlock.
Going for the bulldog.
Oh, look. Got back to her feet. The clothesline. Here we go. Wham! Cover, cover, cover. Nope, she's going up to the top.
Gotta go for it.
Gotta go for it. If you got her in position, you gotta go for it. Here you are. Okay. Oh, perfect landing. Hooks the leg. 3 count for the win. Hey, was there any kind of pressure on you first time? Y'all in the main event?
Yeah.
Monday Night Raw. It's the hottest show on TV.
Yeah, it was pressure, but it was good pressure
Yeah.
because we knew we could deliver. So we're like, we gotta hit all our marks. We gotta do what we know we can do.
Right.
So it was pressure, but we wanted to deliver.
This is, before the women's revolution. So, how much pride do you take in being a trailblazer for women in wrestling?
The thing that I come to, that I tell the women today is it's not necessarily about this painted WrestleMania moment that you have in your head. It's these little opportunities that just fall in your lap and that you make the most. This was the week before pay-per-view. They didn't know who to put in the main event because the pay-per-view card is lined up. They put the girls in there on a whim, and here we are talking about it, And so it's like making these moments that into something more than they should be.
Right. Okay, so you've had 5, 6, 7 fused at this time?
5, 6, 7, yeah.
You've got 5, 6, 7 fused. I've got a clip from another match with Trish. Throw this clip up. You're about to blow an ACL up. Gonna Luthez or off the apron.
Easiest thing.
Easiest thing. It's those little things you were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I won't watch this because I've never seen it.
Okay, in theory, here it is. Boom with the loop.
I've heard it doesn't even look like anything.
No, it
But
does.
I remember how it felt.
Yeah, if you know what.
And I kept waiting for it to snap. You hear me, see me?
Yeah.
They're cursing up a storm.
Boy, I tell you what, you come back from something from 15 months, you're in the trenches, you're in the grind, you're back on the way up, you're hotter than ever, and then you go down with another injury. Take me through the mental process on that.
This was like so. Look at me.
sucks.
That look says everything. Like I've still held out this much hope that nothing was wrong, but also your weird mentality where you're like, I hope something's wrong because I just stopped that match. Like I couldn't
Right.
finish the match. Yeah, I was just like, I felt like I was in a really good pocket of like, I was home in the ring. I felt really good. And it was to get yanked right then was really hard.
Okay, at this point, you go out. Who does your ACL? Who fixes your knee? Did you go Andrews? Okay, so you go down to the best. You're smart. So you go down to Andrews in Birmingham. Everybody knows who that is. And you get fixed up. You got a fusion. Are you now thinking, hey, man, is there something else I can do? Or what's your mental state?
It's hard because that's a beast of an injury. I feel like ACL, it just sounds like, I don't know, like it happens to a lot of people. So I feel like it's an
It's underrated.
It's underrated for how hard it is and how hard it is and the recovery is really difficult. I remember one time I was laying there trying to do my stupid like leg lifts. Just lift your leg like 6 inches off the ground 10 times, three times a day. And I couldn't get it. And I was like, Matt was on the road, Jeff was at home, and I called him. I'm like, please, I need you to come over to the house. I just needed him to like put 2 fingers under my heel to like make it start. That's all I needed. I just needed the satisfaction of doing that, but it's just devastating.
Coming back from an ACL injury is like on a neck injury, you don't do anything. You just wait for it to heal up.
That's all I had so far.
Let the bones fuse together. On the ACL or anything like that, you've got to put the work in, get rid of the atrophy, make sure everything's solid before you start.
And you like wake up from surgery and go down to rehab that day.
Just before we move on from Trish into another storyline, I wanted to reference Trish's final match from Unforgiven 2006.
Yeah.
And I really thought that was just a gangbuster match. It was her last one, and I thought that was one of y'all's shining moments.
Of course. So we knew my last match was going to be 2 months later. So it was just like an honor to be able to kind of finish that chapter up together. Our telepathy was on point. All we do is shoot each other a glance. We knew right where we needed to be in the ring and how to manipulate the crowd. It's so easy when you know each other like that and your characters are developed like that.
When you look back at the matches that you had, is that one of the top
Oh,
threes?
yeah, definitely.
We're going to fast forward a little bit or wherever we are, but what it is a very, let's just say, entertaining storyline with Kane.
Bizarre.
Bizarre, how would you describe that? You did it, you lived it. Some of it was it awkward?
Oh my God, I mean, looking back now with perspective, I can go, that's pro wrestling right there, you know?
No, that's sports entertainment.
Right.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because you got kidnapped, and then, ultimately you got pregnant,
Yeah.
and then had a miscarriage, did a bump.
Fortunately, the best part of this story is Glenn and I got to be very close because we would sit there waiting for our pre-tapes or whatever bizarre thing we were doing that day, just talking about real life.
Kane is one of the nicest guys in the business. No one can say anything bad about him. One of the most well-read guys in the business. Super smart. And obviously, you guys are having a blast here.
Yeah.
All kinds of twists and turns. And I want to show some footage from your wedding to Edge, which is very entertaining stuff. And there's a spoiler involved. And now here's this picture here. Because, okay, anytime there's a really, really big thing going on Raw, and this was huge, right? So there's Vince, and when he's going through the beach with you, he's very detailed.
Yes.
And he sees these things. He's already seen it before, even though maybe it hasn't been done or like this. And he just makes sure that all the pieces are in place. Am I correct?
he's already seen the finished product in his
Yes.
head. So he just needs you to, he's like, nope, 2 steps, not 1.
Yeah.
You know, like he's very specific about a blocking thing like this, right?
And it makes all the difference in the world in how it comes off. Let's play some footage here. Okay, there's Edge. Okay, here you come. Now, I don't know about what's up with this wedding dress, because it's like the coolest thing ever.
Well, like we're the rated R couple.
Yeah.
It just had to. It was funny is like I was like had a blast looking for it because I was like I need it to be like the sluttiest, like trashiest thing you've ever seen. And then all of the boys are like, "That's a great dress." I'm like, "It's the gross. Like it's this like."
I'm agree with the boys. It's a killer dress. Okay, here we are.
That feels these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, then let him speak now,
Okay, is anybody going to speak? Is anybody going to speak?
or forever hold your peace.
Okay, here's the rib. Okay, no one's going to say nothing. We're good. And you think it's going to continue, but this is the Vince coming in.
Very well then, very well then.
Crash match music. Okay, he's going to come down and say, no, you can't get married. Word look by Edge. Oh, gotcha.
See,
got you,
you
moment.
got me. It got me. I'm like, did he come down? I don't remember.
Basically, it was the ribs. He got you. So the crowd knows, okay, now it's going to take place.
Well then, if nobody actually objects, then by the power
Listen to this guy.
vested in me by God, our Father, and the Lord Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ grabs you by the ankle.
Jesus Christ is right!
Oh my God.
See, that's sports entertainment,
Yes.
right? Okay, boom, big right hand. Boom, impressive big
Right.
boot. So impressive. Oh. Here comes the
I'm
choke
not-
slam. Yeah, look how gently he grabbed you, actually. Okay, boom, saved by Edge. Boom. Okay, he's going to get you out of harm's way. The damsel in distress.
Yep.
Okay, he's going
Oh,
to choke
so it's
slam
gotta be
somebody.
someone.
Yeah.
No! No! That's the priest! Not the tombstone! No! Oh my God!
And we never saw that guy again.
No.
Oh my God! Canis, tombstone, tall driven, the priest!
A holy moment that as you're watching, you're going, oh, this is unbelievable. Then you have that Jim Ross soundtrack. It goes, it's even more unbelievable. Backstage shenanigans. You know what? Well, look back at a lot of your career. We'll get into a little bit of the rated R stuff, but not dwell there. You were placed in some of the most difficult situations I've ever seen anybody placed in. Would you agree, or would you say, Steve, you're completely wrong?
Oh man, yeah, I would agree.
But you always weathered the storm and made it through. Maybe not that you wanted to, but you did. And I've always thought you were tough and cool. And you know, we've had our friendship. I was like, if anybody's earned her stripes, it's you.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely, especially during this time, days that it was hard to get on the plane to come to work. Because I'm like, you're willingly participating in this very like stressful situation.
And yeah, put across as family entertainment.
Yes, yes.
But that, you know, you got to laugh about, I guess, in retrospect. But that was where we were at that time in the business.
Yeah.
But despite the circumstances, when you and Edge got together, there was a lot of heat. The storyline with Edge actually, and the blow up with Matt just caused you a lot of personal grief.
Oh yeah.
It was like you're trying to entertain, and this relationship comes out, and the crowd, the vitriol towards the crowd, really kind of turns into the wrong kind of heat
Yeah.
against you. And it's unfortunate that the heat crossed the line, but you know, there's no doubt about it. You guys had a ton of steam and heat to go. Bottom line, you know, that run with Edge, y'all were in basically, you know, almost every single segment of very heavy duty stuff, whether it's men or women, y'all were a main part of Raw.
Yeah, I mean, so it took us a minute to sink into that rated R couple because it was very foreign to us, and it was like during this like totally crazy time for us personally. But besides Trish, Edge is who we had the best telepathy with. All we had to do was shoot each other a glance. We knew right where we needed to be, what we needed to do. And because our characters were so over the top, gross and gratuitous, we like to like gross each other out, see how far we could push our obnoxious characters. And it worked. And once we got there, then we were off to the races.
Before the heat crossed the line, I know as a heel, you love heat. So when you are trying to be a heel and you are hated before it crosses the line, I mean, how much do you enjoy that feeling? Because you're in it to be loved or hated.
Yeah. So I think it was like uncomfortable at first just figuring out how to be a heel because I'd been a babyface so solidly up until that point. And then this character was everything that I wasn't as a person. And once I also figured that out, I'm like, oh, do the opposite of whatever you would do in real life and do it 10 times over, and kick it up. And so that would be, what's fun? It's like you hear a little reaction of some boos, you're like, oh, they didn't like that. I'm gonna do it more, And so that was definitely as rewarding as getting cheered.
It was saying I tried to turn heel a while back, when I was still in and it didn't really go so good. But, like I said.
I tried.
Yeah, you tried. Well, you were successful. But my point is you live or die by the reaction. And when you're doing something to elicit a reaction, like when the three of you as Team Extreme were coming up, you start feeling that, just everybody's excited when you come out. And then all of a sudden you get entrenched in a thing with Edge, and then, hey man, my job is to be hated. And all of a sudden, hey man, here they come a little bit, but it starts really coming on. You start feeding off of it, and you know what to give them back. To your point, you hear them a little bit, and then you start feeding them. Oh, this is what they're wanting, and they're repelling me. This is what I want them to do, so I am controlling them. So it's all a part of a cycle. And when you get that momentum going, whether you're heel or baby, you ride it. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think it was helped being a babyface and such a strong babyface before. I'm like, oh, what did I want on the other side of that this whole time? Because you want someone that wants to be, and that the crowd is reacting to strongly, as opposed to lukewarm, where it's like hard to get a reaction one way or the other.
Okay, so you and Edge are riding along, got a whole bunch of steam, and then finally it starts crossing the line. It gets really personal, your personal life personal. And then finally, in a promo, you about had a gut full.
Yeah.
You're about to ride off in the sunset. You get a chance for a promo before you work with Mickie James, and you put it all on the line to get everything off your chest, right?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was leaving, and this was going to be my one chance to tell people how I really felt.
It's like, hey, man, this is what it is. You did this to me, and here's my response.
Didn't have to be like this, guys.
You people seem to forget. You have a very short memory, forgetting who I am and what I've done. All the sacrifices I made, whether tearing everything out of my knee, whether breaking my neck, or getting verbally berated by you idiots every week. All the sacrifices I made, I inspired a generation of women. Without me, there would be no Mickie James. So you're gonna make my job real easy to forget about all you people. Because Survivor Series is my last match. I'm gonna retire, and I'm gonna retire the greatest women's champion of all time.
Did it feel good to get a load off your mind?
It did. It did, because the whole time, Edge and I both, our mantra was, we're just gonna do our work, we're gonna be good at our work, and we're not gonna say anything outside or comment on anything outside of it. Like, that was our mantra the whole time. And everybody else had, fans, Matt, our people in the locker room. And so it was until the moment that I got to, cut a promo about my match and about my life.
You brought Mickie James, your opponent. I've always thought she's been kind of underappreciated.
Yeah.
Mickie's a hell of a damn worker.
Absolutely.
And the people that know. But I think sometimes she doesn't get enough credit for being how good she was.
Oh, I mean, and still is. That's the
Yes.
thing. I mean, she's one of those people that you don't have to worry about. She'll be in the right spot. She's going to be there for you. You don't have to look. She knows that ring like the back of her hand, and she does all the little things that are the things that go underappreciated that makes someone a worker and not just a spot doer.
Oh yeah, definitely not a spot doer. She's going to get the work done. So I guess maybe we're in 2006. You know, this storyline is going to kind of run its course and start winding down. So when you decide to step away, you know, what was it? What was it? Hey, I've been there, done that. I've had enough. I'm burned out. It's time to do something else. What spurred your decision? I ultimately left because I was frazzled. I needed to take myself out of harm's way. You had double neck fusion knees. What prompted your decision? You were still pretty young.
Yeah. You know, it was at that time, I feel like the locker room was younger, and 30 felt really old at the time. I know,
Jesus
right?
Christ. Is that how old you were?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. And my contract was coming up, and it was just kind of a combination of everything. But the main thing driving me was the last thing I got into that business was for a paycheck. It was for the passion and the excitement and the following my dreams. And there were times, especially when I was having a hard time at work, that it became a paycheck. So I asked them, I said, let me decide if I want to stay here. Take me off the house shows to give me some space to think before we even talk numbers. Because this isn't about the numbers. It's about if I want to do this or if I don't. And I just ultimately thought, I've accomplished more in my career than I ever thought I would do. And to be successful, you have to be all in 100%. And I didn't feel like I could give all in 100%. And so I said, I'd rather fall flat on my face on the next chapter, whatever that chapter is. I didn't have a plan, than just spin my wheels, you know, or just kind of like backslide down the other side of the pyramid too. You know, I kind of was like, family, friends. I missed all my friends' weddings and babies and all that stuff. Like I missed going, you know, you quick get invited because they're like, oh, she's probably out of town.
Okay, I made a decision to leave when I did. You just made the decision to leave, and you did. So I always call it, you know, turning back into a civilian. It took me a while, and then I did, and it's like, oh man, I'm completely different. I used to be this road warrior, always on the go.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to be able to turn into a civilian and enjoy relaxation and not be on the hustle bustle schedule of what is required to be someone in WWE roster?
Yeah, I think it went in phases. First, I remember taking like a few day nap, coming home off of that, just sleeping for a few days and waking up and taking my dog for a walk going, oh my God, you were so tired for so long, like years, you know?
Yeah.
And then I do think going down to Nicaragua, getting my place in Nicaragua really helped because no one really watched wrestling down there. No one really knew me. And just the lifestyle, it's like, I'd ride my mountain bike around, go take a surf for the day and walk to the market. Like, you know, those were my days stayed full, but like at this leisurely pace that felt really simple and I was able to appreciate it.
So, you know, over the course of, you know, a couple of years, you would come and go here and there, this, that, or whatever. In 2014, you'd get the call and you'd go into the WWE Hall of Fame and your good friend, Trish Stratus, would induct you. You get the call, you get up there, and I really didn't realize what I had done, you know, because you're doing it, right?
Same.
And they had that 5-minute package or whatever it was, and I was kind of like, oh, that was kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Tell me about your...
Yeah, I mean, it was much like some of the best moments in my life where you're not expecting it, you're not looking for it. I wasn't sitting there going, I wonder who they're going to induct into the Hall of Fame this year. Like nothing. I was in Nicaragua and they told me I was going to be inducted. I was like, oh, cool. You know, like, but then, yeah, I felt like that was the first time I got to reflect on my career because I just needed a space. I just needed a break afterwards and needed to focus on how to be a civilian, not focus on what I had done. And so that week was, I remember like all fond memories, like no stress. I was like, oh, you already did the work. This is just the fun part. You know, you pick out a dress and talk about yourself and people are stoked for a few minutes. Like bring my mom along, you know, like it was a really nice moment. And Trish and I spent the whole week together. She had my godson, her son with her. And, you know, we just kind of got to like, it was like totally different than our Road Warrior days.
Right. In a year since, you know, we would basically, you know, witness a resurgence of women's wrestling. You were a key part of it behind the scenes. You blazed a path for these women to follow before. It's a good shot.
That is right after the triple threat in Texas.
I remember that, yeah. Dallas.
Yeah. I remember pulling up to the building and like 60 foot tall on the side of the building were all three of them. And I remember having a moment there being like, wow, this is really big.
So your thoughts on, the trailblazers that came before you, going back to Medusa and people before that.
Luna,
all those people,
Sherry.
and then now where the women are now. But you've been right there, as an integral part of that. How does that make you feel? Look at that. That's. And if you look at that roster right there and you ask each one of those women individually, who influenced you to get in the business, there's a large percentage of people here that are going to say you or Trish.
yeah.
But I've heard so many of these women say that you were the reason they got into the business. So that's your influence.
Yeah, it's been really cool to watch these women come into their own. And it seems like not that long ago, because I don't feel like it was that long ago that I was wrestling, but they were like literal children just then going, I want to do this. And then here they are. So that's been really fun just to have these little blips popping in and having like touching the current generation from, the moment they were sitting in their living room watching me, and then now we're in the ring together.
With all that you've seen and all that you've done, from seeing, growing up in Florida and seeing Rey Mysterio Jr. and going to Mexico and traveling, everything that you've done and looking back at your contributions, what do you think about your legacy? Do you think about it? Or I know you're a very humble person.
I don't know that I could answer that as well until this most recent run with going to Saudi, and Rey Mysterio was actually there. We did press together in Saudi Arabia, so halfway across the world. A woman had never been on a billboard there before. Becky and I are there. Becky attributes me for getting into the business, to have a match together. It just feels like a lot more at peace, and I feel like I can talk about my career a lot more with a smile on my face than think about some of the times that we've talked about that were really difficult, or the tumultuous parts. It's like I can be removed from it and just pull all of the good from it and feel really good about it.
And now with where you're at now in your personal life, back in the day, you started the door, Amy Dumas Operation Rescue and Education, because you're an animal lover. Are you still involved with that? Are you still doing stuff with animals?
Yeah, I always am doing stuff with animals. When I was going down into Nicaragua, I did see that sometimes people need also some help before the animals. So I've gotten into some of that as well. But I just think that to have such a crazy life in the best possible way, to be able to give back to those that can't speak, whether it be because they're animals or because they don't have power or a voice, is just such an honor to be able to help those along.
Man, I appreciate you coming out here to Parts Unknown. It's a long way to get out here, but I got a chance to see you, when you first came in the company, and then I was gone. But I've enjoyed watching you and to do the research on you and see how many dues you paid, and like I said, some of the crazy storylines, the things you've put up with, and the things you've overcome. Congratulations on a hell of a body of work and the Hall of Fame and everything. We've always gotten along. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and congratulations on such a fantastic career.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, my name is Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is the one and only Lita. Thanks for watching the Broken Skull Sessions, and that's the bottom line, because I said so.